Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our weekly Family Connections. Today we are going to be talking with our district staff to answer questions for our parents of our undergraduate students. We spent some time a few weeks ago talking to our senior parents, so we're going to be talking to our undergrad parents about how to plan for the next few years of high school. McLean, and I am this. In our panel today, we have Jennifer.
I hate what you do.
Gomez is for it started, ladies. Are you guys able to hear me? I look like you're freezing up.
You're
freezing up.
freezing, yes. So
I'm freezing up.
We didn't hear any of the introductions, so
hi.
hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Probably more for our junior parents, if any junior parents. You'll be able to take over some questions and let me see if I can get my technology issues under control.
We sure can.
Yes, I sure will. I think where she was questioning or freezing up at the time was for the junior parents. The big question is, will we have prom this year?
Okay, so yes, we are planning to have prom Saturday, June the 5th. It'll be from 8 p.m. to midnight in the high school cafeteria. And so they're currently working on getting all of that pulled together with parents and teachers and students to make that a success.
Great. So a little bit of normalcy for all of us. That will be wonderful.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's start. It's never too early to start thinking about college. Definitely seniors are in the mode of that, but also juniors. It's a great time. So can you tell us what is the FAFSA?
So
and why is it important?
Sure. So FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid, and it basically allows a student to know what type of monetary assistance they would have with attending college. It's something that you would apply for beginning your fall semester of your senior year. Doing it any sooner wouldn't benefit anything because it's not available to you yet. So fall semester of senior year is really when you want to start looking at that. The sooner the better in that semester, just to go ahead and get that done and ready to go. You can have that sent to the colleges that you're looking to attend. And if you add a college down the line, you can always log back in and have it sent to that college. So that's not a problem.
Okay. It's also great to note, especially for the juniors this year, that next year as a graduation requirement, that FAFSA is becoming basically mandatory for graduation to say, yes, you would be a graduate of Snyder High School. That is a completion aspect that TEA, Texas Education Agency, has just released. So that's great that you're providing information at this time.
And we always maintain with the FAFSA and even college applications and stuff that we've been doing with seniors is that it's always good, whether you plan on going to college right outside of high school or not, to have that experience of filling it out. The FAFSA in particular is one that is somewhat confusing. It can be very straightforward or it can be very confusing. It's kind of like not really a happy medium, but we like to be able to help the students walk through it. And therefore, a year down the road or a year and a half down the road, it's really easy for a student to say, oh, we remember taking care of that or doing that while we had Ms. Rosas and myself and other adults to help them fill that out and step along with them. So that's something that we really have been okay with TEA making those changes, because at the end of the day, we do feel it is best for the future of the students, even if they don't plan on going to college right outside of high school. You never know what the future holds and what can change as you exit high school.
All right. Thank you, Janelle. I am so sorry. I was having technical difficulties. I had them this morning and I was having them again. But the FAFSA is very important. And I know as a parent, the sooner that I could have jumped on that process and kind of got all of those pieces out of the way, it was super helpful not to wait till the last part of the senior year to be able to do that. So talking to parents of underclassmen, when should they start thinking about helping their students look at colleges? When should they start applying for colleges? When do you recommend that they look at the ACT, SAT if they're going on to a university? So talk to us about that timeline.
So we're always encouraging students the whole time they're in high school to be thinking about their future and what they're interested in. Usually by their junior year, we start having those conversations of, okay, let's start narrowing this down, 5, 6 schools. Let's see, what are you really becoming more interested in? Which school has the right degree plan for you? And looking at those deadlines for the applications, because there are some schools that, the first part of your senior year, you better already kind of have it lined out. In if there's an essay, you could go ahead and start writing that essay your junior year to have a start on it. There's nothing wrong with your junior year serious preparation. So we feel like that's a very big year with your junior year. Also, with saying that your ACT, your SAT, it's not a good idea to wait to your senior year. Some things like last year happens and we never come back from spring break, and some of those seniors struggled kind of getting everything put into place. So we encourage your junior year to take advantage of those ACT and SAT offerings throughout those years. They're usually held on Saturdays. We do give the SAT usually during school at one point during the year, but that's not always the best just to wait for that, because you probably are going to want to take these tests more than once. That is kind of a general. I actually took the ACT 3 times when I was in high school. And we usually encourage students to at least take it twice, because more than likely you could increase your score a few points, just like any other test. You see it once for the first time, and then the second time you're like, oh, okay, wait, I could have done differently on that. So we encourage the same with your SAT and your ACT. We do offer some opportunities for our underclassmen, our very underclassmen, our 9th and 10th graders, 10th in particular, with the PSAT, the pre-SAT, and then the ACT 10, which is pretty much new, actually. This kind of come out that we should start looking at for our underclassmen, but we have been giving the PSAT for quite some time now for our sophomores in particular. So those are some opportunities with the SAT and the ACT.
Okay, so I guess it's confusing when, especially for parents that children are just going into college for the first time. So there's the ACT, there's the SAT, there's the TSI.
Yes.
And then now these other tests, the PSAT and the ACT 10. That's a lot of initials. So kind of walk our parents through which tests should their student take, and what does the campus do, especially with those like PSAT and the ACT 10. What are the campus, how is that data used? And then based off of where their students going after high school, what tests should they think about taking?
So the ACT 10 and the PSAT, that's our first experience for our students to have one of these high stakes tests that are for college bound top students. And it's always important to have those practice tests in a real environment and how those kind of questions are going to be asked and received, and what you kind of need to study for the real deal. We'll call it the real deal, the one that actually you can turn your scores in to the colleges. And so that is the ACT and the SAT. As a junior and senior, that's when you start taking those tests, and those scores can all be reported to whichever college you choose. Those are the ones that would be used for admissions. And every school has a little bit different of an admissions requirement. And it is usually for the ACT or the SAT. Most of the time a student can choose which test. The SAT and our personal research is more math minded. There is some scoring to the SAT that we tend to warn students about. It is not just going in and taking the test. Sometimes you have to pay attention to whether you know the question or not. The ACT seems to be geared a little more to a holistic test, lots of different parts to it. And it is pretty much, take the test, you get the answer right or wrong, whereas the SAT is a little different. Some schools, depending on the school you're looking at, may say, we want the SAT, or they may say, we want the ACT. So we have to be very aware of what those admissions requirements are for each school. Sometimes Ms. Rosas and I have to look those up. We do not know every single school's admissions requirements, though we like to pretend that we do a lot of the times. We always double check ourselves because we never want to steer our students wrong when it comes to these kind of tests. Our counselor's office, Ms. Beaver, handles the SAT. So if there's the PSAT or the SAT, anything dealing with the SAT, Ms. Beaver is your person in our SHS counselor's office. If you're dealing with the ACT and any variety of that, that is Ms. Early in the counselor's office. So they handle those testings. Then when we talk about the TSI, to bring in a few more initials, that is what Ms. Rosas and I do in the cube. The TSI is more of just kind of a readiness test to see what's kind of going on. It's different than the ACT and the SAT. Mostly, I mean, there's a little bit of similarities, but for the most part, it's a little different. We tend to try to do more studying and prepping our students for it, because by the time you're a senior, our goal is that you've passed the math and the English portions of that TSI. So we're always working with the TSI all the time. Everybody's taking the TSI, whereas maybe not everybody takes the ACT or the SAT, depending on your futuristic goals. But everybody's taking this TSI with us, and we're learning the new test. We're starting to see some success on our side. It's slow, but we have lots of study material for the TSI, and we visit with your students. And I will have to say, you could probably agree with me, the underclassmen have really stepped up, and we're taking the old TSI before it switched over. We have quite a few underclassmen that have already become successful on the TSI for the math and the English. And so we're working through our list and always offering it to your students anytime for them to come in and start that process. We never want to wait until the spring semester of your senior year and still working on the TSI. We would love for that to be completed by your junior year and have it out of the way, and you do not have to worry about it. So much more is going on your senior year, guys. Underclassmen all the way on that.
Well, and talking about timing with TSI, we start that as early as the summer before their freshman year, depending on what types of courses they're going to be taking. My daughter, as a current freshman, took at least the English portion before she even started high school. And so getting that done earlier sometimes is more helpful for the students. And so we do have students as young as incoming freshmen taking that test. So they could, by their freshman year, they could be TSI complete and have passed everything and not have to worry about any of that. A lot of depending on what math you take, will depend on when we have you take your math portion of it. So some of them do wait until their sophomore year to take the math, but they go ahead and get the English out of the way.
We've been also playing around with Edgenuity. They have several prep courses for the SAT, the ACT, and they have already prepped up for the new TSI test as well. And so we're fixing to start exploring how our students can utilize an Edgenuity course that we already have available. And we've seen that the testing material part of it's already been rolled into the new format. And so we're pretty excited about that.
And students have access to Edgenuity 24/7, right? On their computer.
Absolutely. That's why we're very interested in it, and we already have it in the district ready to go.
So does the campus have any ACT or SAT prep courses besides Edgenuity, or anything that students should look for as far as signing up? Or
Well, we have been looking for a boot camp thing with Mastery Prep, and so we have not finalized those details. And as soon as we do, we will make sure that everybody is available, has that available to them that wants to participate for the SAT or the ACT. So I know that that was the last conversation about doing a boot camp, and that'll be kind of a Saturday one-stop shop, go through the material kind of boot camp.
Okay. So for our parents, so we talk a lot to our senior parents about the free tuition option from Western Texas College, WTC. So talk to these parents about this option and what it means for their students when they graduate from Snyder.
Okay, so the tuition actually can start their freshman year with dual credit classes. And so through the opportunity scholarship that WTC has available, you have some criteria that you have to meet. Last year, our incoming freshmen and the rest of our dual credit students wrote an essay because we couldn't have them doing community service with the circumstances. This year, they have opened that back up. So the students that will be participating have that opportunity to do 20 hours of community service. We have an entire list in our office of eligible places, and they can keep track of that and turn that into WTC in July, so they can start it now. In fact, I had a parent call me last night. I was cooking dinner, and she said, can we start now or do we have to wait till school's over? No, you can start now. Start your hours now. Don't wait and try to cram it in all in 2 weeks because we're getting out of school later this year. So students can go ahead and take care of that. A couple of things that does not cover is books and miscellaneous fees. So you're looking for dual credit students, it's going to be like an internet fee. I think that fee's
It's $25 per course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as a freshman, you're only taking one course a semester. So that would be the $25 internet fee plus the book. Now, depending on what program you're in, the book may be covered too. So there are some options there as well.
Okay.
The important thing to remember is to try to start getting those volunteer hours, and we will be visiting with students individually here. Our seniors that are graduating, they have to get 40 hours done. And if they're at WTC, they're getting 40 hours, and our dual credit students only have to get 20. So if we wait till the last minute, everybody's trying to do their hours, and Snyder is only so big. So please make sure that we start working on that as soon as possible for our underclassmen parents, because we want that free money. We want to be able to help your kids get these classes paid for.
Okay. We've had a couple of questions come in the chat. And so one was back when we were talking about FAFSA, and I think I was having my technology issues. And then one now. So I'm going to ask the one that's related to right now. Do students, like dual credit students, need to apply to WTC each year?
No, they will not do a WTC application for each year. Once they're in our dual credit program, that WTC application, as long as you don't sit out a semester or sit out a year, then we might have to reapply. But once you've done your WTC application as a dual credit student, then we just have to do the course form each semester to get you in the correct classes. Gotcha. So that I have seen a couple of issues where a student set out for a semester and we had to kind of redo a few things, but for the most part, no, you shouldn't have to fill out an application each year. A course form, yes, but not an actual application.
And they will have to fill out the WTC opportunity scholarship.
That is every year. Yes, ma'am. Every single year, that is totally different. Your hours do not carry over. You do 20 new volunteer hours.
Right. And then any other requirements that WTC needs, whether it's an updated transcript or TSI scores, those are all things that we take care of here at the high school.
Okay. So, and then a question from earlier, if a student does not qualify for FAFSA, so the parents fill out the FAFSA, what are the other opportunities that are out there? So WTC, that's not dependent on income.
And then scholarships. The thing with FAFSA, whether you qualify or not, colleges are going to ask that you fill that out before you even fill out scholarship applications. Most schools won't even look at your application for a scholarship unless you've completed that first. So even if you know what the end answer is, it's still going to be a requirement to fill that out. I know with Opportunity Scholarship, that's a requirement to have FAFSA completed. So it's just something, whether you qualify or not, to get it done. But there are other resources out there to help pay, Opportunity Scholarship being one of the big ones.
Right. Okay. So let's transition off of some college questions and talk about high school. So I know that these students across the campus are starting to hear more and more about the Capstone project. So I think we have parents that are starting to hear about the Capstone project. What is the Capstone project, and why does my student have to complete it? And what are the expectations for students and the families?
So as a freshman and a sophomore, your students are required to do a cover letter and a resume, just kind of getting those skills built up. Maybe they get a little job for after school or something like that. So we're starting to try to build the cover letter and the resume skills. Obviously, they can start thinking about the capstone and what they would like. And the basic idea of the capstone is a project, we'll leave it loose like that, a project that describes what your student has done for the course of 4 years while in high school of their area of interest. So if I'm a student that wants to go to culinary arts school, I'm probably in cooking classes all 4 years of high school, and my capstone is probably going to be something to do with cooking. If I'm a welding student, I'm in welding classes all 4 years. I probably have a project like a barbecue pit or a fire pit or something like that. Some project that you're able to describe the process of building, your knowledge of why you built it, how is it going to help you in the future? If you plan on being a welder and you received your AWS certification and your next step is to go apply for a welder's position and do the training that company requires, we're just trying to step you in the right direction for that. So that's the idea of the capstone. In all areas of interest, whether it be science, teaching and training, floral. I mean, we have a ton of different projects there. This year, the Capstone Showcase, just for you junior parents and juniors, students alike, it is May the 20th from 6 to 8 here at the high school cafeteria. So that is this year's Capstone Showcase. And again, if you're a junior, next year, your student will have a Capstone Showcase. So we're always encouraging, and I've heard several seniors come by after our meeting on Friday in the last couple of days. Man, I'm glad I had my resume done and my capstone overview already done, and all they had to do was update it and submit it, and they're already ready to go for the Capstone Showcase. And I said, that is how it is supposed to be. So freshmen and sophomores, you get your cover letter and resume ready. As a junior, you're thinking about what your project's going to be. You start kind of writing your ideas and why you're doing it. Of course, you need to update your cover letter and resume. And then poof, when you're a senior, all you get to do is have a little fun building your project or making your presentation as you wish. And we get to have a little fun at the Capstone Showcase. Your students access this. They will start seeing a capstone specific course in Schoology. Seniors just got theirs on Friday to start submitting all their stuff that they've been doing. And then freshmen through juniors, hopefully in the next week or so, they will start seeing that show up under their Schoology course listing.
Perfect. And parents are welcome to attend the May 20th, even if they do not have a senior, right? So they can get
Correct. We like senior parents, and then we're okay with junior parents coming to see what all it's going to be about the next year. And then we move out to the community. I did explain to the seniors during my session at Tiger Trek that obviously we have to be careful of how many people we end up having. So if I'm going to go with senior parents and junior parents, and then we'll bring in the community for as long as the school district will let me bring in people.
All right, sounds good. Always a question this time of year, EOCs. This is a little different with COVID and the state saying that, the A through F accountability system is suspended, but we are still taking STAR EOCs, and they are critically important to our high school students, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Coming up next week, as a matter of fact, is our first round. And so our students have been preparing for this all year. So we feel pretty strongly about our students' capabilities, and we encourage them all just to do their very best. It doesn't matter if it's in A through F accountability year or not, we're always wanting them to do 150% their best. And so our students are meeting the challenge. I think they're a little nervous because last year kind of got so messed up with EOCs. I know, for example, my daughter's a sophomore, so she didn't take the English 1 last year as a freshman. And so I think she kind of feels like she's going into it cold this year as an English 2 student. So we know that there's some apprehensions from our students, but yes, the EOCs are happening and we want everybody to do 100% because that just shows us where we are and moving into next year and what we need to do differently for next year and just keep progressing your student through their education.
And nothing really has changed. Students still have to pass the 5 EOCs in order to graduate. So whatever EOC STAR end of course test they were supposed to take last year, they were exempt. So your daughter, for example, exempt from English 1 and maybe algebra 1, right? Or biology. Yeah. So whatever STAR EOC they had to take last year, they get a pass, like an exempt, if they pass the course. That's not the case this year. So if you got to pass those EOCs in order to graduate as in our current system. So just make sure that we're encouraging our students to do the best.
Absolutely.
So we had some questions coming in about P-TECH. So we're a little short on time, but you want to give a brief overview of P-TECH, and if a student is not in P-TECH, what they could do if they're interested, and if they are in P-TECH, how do parents know what courses they need to be taking next year?
Yes, ma'am. So P-TECH stands for Pathways in Technology for Early College High Schools. And basically what that means is your student is able to choose an area of interest that they would like to follow throughout high school in a sequence of courses that would end in an industry-based certification. It could end in an associate degree or a level 1 or level 2 certificate. It really just depends on the pathway itself. And so if they are currently in one and they need to know what they're taking next, we actually have a link on our website that shows what course they would take next. Or they could call us and we'd be happy to guide them through that. If they're not currently in a P-TECH program and want to be, let us know. As they're scheduling students for next year, those are things that we can look at and we can get them in and get them going. So if they decide as a freshman that that's not something they're interested in, but then their sophomore year, they find out, you know what, I think I really want to do this. It's not too late at that point. We can get them in and we can get them going. So just coming to us and letting us know that, because unfortunately we're not mind readers. And so they have to tell us.
Okay. So it's a great option for some free
Absolutely.
college,
Absolutely.
that really no cost to the student. So
Absolutely.
if you have a student that's interested, be sure to check that out. Our final question that we had a parent submit: how do we find out information about joining the military for their student? And when should parents and students start talking with a recruiter?
Well, the best place to first talk to is our counseling office. They set up the meetings with the recruiters, and the recruiters come in at different times throughout the year and visit with students. And so I don't think it is ever too early to start thinking about if that's your option or not, even as a 9th and 10th grader. And there's nothing wrong with visiting with the counselors and possibly visiting with the recruiter at that time. We do still feel your junior year, that's when we take the ASVAB, which is the military kind of readiness test. And so that's when we take that as your junior year. And that is when we usually see the majority of the students making their decision about military and visiting with those recruiters in our office. And we always enjoy those visits because I've had some fantastic capstones even about joining the military and what they plan on doing in the military and how they made that decision to join the military. And so we never take that lightly as well. We want our students to be prepared for whichever area they would like to go into. And the military is one of those options. And so I believe, think about it, talk with your families, the 9th and 10th grade, and then visit with the counselors, maybe your 10th grade year, and start setting up those recruitment conversations your junior year.
All right, that sounds awesome. we are at our time limit, and so we will be back at 5 o'clock today. I believe you two will be back with us on our panel this afternoon. And we always have different questions submitted from parents, so some of the same topic, but we never know what exciting questions will pop up. So we will see everyone back at 5 o'clock next week. Our Family Connections will be hosting Jesus Gomez as our Director of Equity, and we are going to be opening that up to our Spanish-speaking families that would like to have kind of an open forum of questions and answers that Jesus will facilitate for us. So if you are interested in that, please join us next week at 12 and 5. Otherwise, we will see everybody at 5 o'clock today.
Bye.
You're gonna have to accent.